I can't get that George Michael song out of my head, or at least that one line, because you gotta have faith. And I know it's old, but it stuck with me even as a kid. What does it mean to you and to me to have faith? It's a bunch of different things to each of us. Because our faith, all of us, is in different places. Some of us are new to it. Some of us feel our faith is being tested. Some of us may even wonder, coming to church even, do I have real faith? And what is this mustard seed business? The mustard seed is the smallest of any seed on the face of the earth, supposedly. And Jesus goes, if you have faith just that size, you could say to that mulberry tree, which has crazy roots and systems, be uprooted and thrown into the sea and it would obey you. Now, who believes that he's talking literally? What's he saying? You gotta have a foundational belief system in something more than ourselves. You with me on that one? We are not God. That's the quote-unquote sin, or the meaning behind the story of Adam and Eve. If you eat that apple, you eat from that tree. There wasn't a real story like there was an apple, an Eve, a snake, an apple and Eve. You know, that's an apple juice, I think, apple and Eve. There's not, you know, the Adam and Eve is meant to be human beings. The snake, the apple, the tree, the serpent. That's a story to say, those people who wanted to eat the apple, human beings, when we want to do that, we want to put ourselves in the center of all things, the tree of good and evil, knowledge. You know, we want to make ourselves God. We're not God. We're created by God. And having a faith in somebody greater than us, something that's transcendent, A, I think it keeps us humble, and B, it gives us what we need, as my friends in 12 Steps say all the time, to live life on what? Life's terms, not always our terms. Because I don't know if anybody's noticed lately, especially if we've lived life a little bit longer, life doesn't always work on our terms, does it? When that diagnosis comes, or when that marriage goes south, or when that unexpected thing happens at work, or this illness comes, we don't have any control. Guess we're not God, huh? But where does God come into play? Do you think God's doing any of that stuff to you and me? No. That's life on this earth for whatever time we've been given. It's beautiful, it's unbelievable, it's loving, it's also challenging, it's at times unjust and unfair and dangerous. Where's God in all this? Making it happen? No, God's saying, I am with you, whether it's a beautiful blue sky, bright sunny autumnal day here in New England, or whether the floods are rising, the winds are blowing, and everything's in disarray in your life. I am there with you. Do you and I have that kind of faith? Do we hear the words of that George Michael song, because you gotta have faith, peppering into those times? Because it's real easy to have faith on a beautiful day like today when things are going smooth in our lives. Thank you. In fact, half the time we forget to say thanks because we think it's all about us. I've done this and I've worked so hard and I got this and please. Faith, it challenges us to stay connected with God 24/7, 365, no matter what it is that's going on in our lives. That's the faith that we're hearing about with Habakkuk and with Paul to Timothy and with Jesus. That's the faith of the mustard seed that he speaks to us to tap into when things are out of control. Remember back in the day when we were kids, or for you guys who are kids, I forgot, right? You go camping. I don't know if anybody went camping this summer, or a little backyard campfire. What do you have to do to that flame to keep it going? You have to tend the flame. You have to put some oxygen in there, you have to have good fuel, but you have to take care of this flame. Otherwise the thing dies out. Don't you love Paul's words to Timothy? Stir into flame. Tend the fire of the Spirit given at baptism. Do something. It's like going to the gym. Our bodies, if we don't go to school, our minds, they don't kick in. Our bodies don't kick in if we don't take care of them. We have to tend the spirit, the body, mind, and soul. We have to tend the flame of faith. We always have to update it, shore it up, using all these mixed metaphors and all these analogies. We have to develop it. Stir it into flame, Paul says. Again, do you and I do that? So many of us, even as adults, are stuck in 3rd grade, 6th grade CCD classes with our understanding of faith on some level. That's not a slam, it's just a reality. And I got a lot of that in me too. We have to grow, we have to let our faith really kick in so that it's relevant for us now with the real deal adult problems that we're all facing. Well, think about those charcoal grills. So many of us just go like this, press, and then the gas grill goes, right? But remember back in the day, it was interminable waiting for those charcoals to turn white, remember? And so you'd do the wrong thing. The wrong thing, kids. You remember that? I never did it, but I saw it happen a lot. Not good practice, huh? Can't wait. But we have to tend those charcoal. Same thing with faith. One aspect of it, I believe, is coming to church. But it's one aspect of it. The community gathering once a week. Huge, hopefully inspired, invited to participate, our beautiful music, our praying twice as we sing. Hopefully homilies that are relevant and challenging and timely. Hopefully great opportunity to be involved in the community, to give back, to be part of the ministries, and to gather with other like-minded and spirited people. That's one way to tend and stir into faith what was given to us at baptism. And another way is to pray. Well, I'm not sure I know how to pray. There's no right or wrong way to pray. Anything that's directed toward God, whatever our image of God, that's prayer. Whether you get all the words down pat, whether you do it on the fly or in a nice, calm way, whether it's sporadic or disciplined, that's prayer. That's another way to stir into flame this faith. Because it's our faith that's going to help to inform how you and I deal with what I said earlier, life on life's terms. The power of faith, and I got to be honest with you, I don't know how people go through life without faith. And that isn't about saying going to church. That I hope enhances it here. But faith, a belief system in something more, I don't know how people do it. Again, that's very subjective on my part as a faith guy. At least I think I have faith. But the power of faith can move the unmovable or the immovable. The mulberry tree. Having faith in a God who's with us can help us to get through the toughest things that don't seem to be moving anywhere out of our lives, but seem to be like taking root. Faith gives us a perspective on how we can deal with things and not lose hope and not despair and not become cynical, which is so rife today. Power of faith helps us to move the immovable and accomplish what appears to be the impossible. So in other words, it's not magic. If I'm going to pray, the cancer goes away. If I pray, all of a sudden the situation will change like that. No. That's that 3rd grade, 6th grade, beautiful but nascent faith. Adult faith says, life on life's terms, I got to stay faithful. I got to stay connected because the vision has its time. It moves and presses on to fulfillment, as we heard. Wait for it if it delays. In other words, if our prayers aren't answered in the time frame that you and I want or in the way that you and I want, he says, slow it down. Just keep on keeping on. Stay with it. For it will come. It won't delay. You know, God's time is not always our time in the prayer request department, right? In fact, even in the outcome department oftentimes. But do you and I have the faith that hangs in there and sometimes even through the worst of things that happen, our loved ones dying, my experience, your experience, so many of our experiences. Maybe our faith deepens through the greatest losses and pains, as opposed to the choice that we all have to say, really? Really? All I did was pray. All I did was do the right thing. And you did not come through for me. See ya. That's a legitimate thing that people do all the time. I've done it. But that's like that 3rd and 6th grade temper tantrum. Can we move into adult faith? You with me in this too much? I hate to say this, but I'm right. I'm right. I'm telling you this right now. That doesn't mean it's easy. Doesn't mean I'm always faithful. It doesn't mean that it's going to make us feel better right away. But I'm not right. It's Habakkuk. It's Paul. It's Timothy. It's Jesus. It's the countless company of saints around us that have gone before us as faithful people where life wasn't all that good or fair to them either. When Paul says stir into flame the faith that you've been given at baptism, it's got to kick in during these tough times and when you and I are most afraid. What does he say to Timothy? For God didn't give us a spirit of cowardice so that when it gets too hot in the kitchen we run away, I'm done, but a spirit of strength and power and love. Hang in there. Keep talking to me. Even though you don't get that voice that comes back and assures you right away, all is well, keep going. That self-control that wants to just bolt when we don't get our needs met right away. Or when you and I speak up for the gospel. Look at these turbulent times politically in our country and in our world. Cripes, you can't have a discussion anymore that's civil because everybody's so polarized. And he says, well, when you speak up for people who either have no voice or who have a voice, but it's not being heard, bear your share of hardship for the gospel. I'll give you what you need. You may lose friends, and I don't want to lose any friends, but the gospel is clear about how we treat each other. Not so clear on how we deal with complex situations like we're experiencing in our country and in our world today. So again, praying faith more for the Spirit to guide us in these ways. It's the Spirit that takes away fear and cowardice when you and I have to speak up to what's wrong. How about you guys in school when you stepped up to some kid who's a bully, right? That ain't easy. Or when you see somebody who's doing the wrong thing and you say, I'm not doing that, it's not the right thing. You might lose friends. But it's the Spirit, it's faith that gives us the power that we need. I think it's easier sometimes as kids to do that than it is as adults because we got a lot more to lose as adults when we step up in these ways, right? But isn't life a process? It's not about perfection. It's growing in process of a deepened faith. In faith, Habakkuk says, there are tough times all around. Lord, I cry for help. I've asked this for 1,000,000 times, and it hasn't worked out, but you don't listen. I look around, I cry, there's violence all around us, but you don't seem to care. You don't intervene. Why do you let me see all this bad stuff? Why is it like this? Is that not our prayer on so many levels at times in life? There's destruction and violence all around me, strife and clamorous discord. But then the Lord just answers and says, hey, Habby, write the vision down clearly on the tablet. I want everybody to know it. Because the vision has its time. It presses on to fulfillment. And trust me, God says to you and me and to Habakkuk, it will not disappoint. But as I said a minute ago, this is the toughest thing in faith. It doesn't come in the ways that we want or expect. And God even says, if it doesn't come in the ways that you want and expect, ready? If it delays, stay faithful. Wait for it. It will surely come. I believe that stuff. I'm not right. Habakkuk's right. It'll come. It won't be late. It won't disappoint. And then that last line says, people who have a shallow faith, he says, the rash one has no integrity, but the just one, because of faith, shall live. So what's testing your faith? What's testing mine? Is it cancer? Is it the reality of aging as we watch our minds start to shift, or the minds of our spouses or loved ones start to shift? Is it depression that you've been wrestling with your whole life? Anxiety that we've been feeling forever that paralyzes and keeps us from our fullest potential? Is it our current economic status where we might be struggling? Is it what's going on in our country or our world or our church? What's testing your faith and mine? Do you and I give up easily? Or are we patient and wait for the vision? Are we faithful in believing these words that we hear today? Like the apostles from 2,000 years ago, let's make our prayer theirs. Lord, increase our faith.